Now that the refreshed Model S and Model S cars are making their way to their new owners, the deliveries have started a few days ago. The question is now with this refresh, is Model S back on top of the food chain for the Tesla lineup? For the last few months, quite a few Model S owners and Model X owners were kind of getting frustrated, and the sales for the Model S and Model X have been tanking because Model 3 had bypassed the S and X in terms of technology and just made the Model S and Model X outdated. But now with the refresh, I'm wondering, is the Model S back? And I have a perfect guest today because it's Wednesday. So Supercharged with Eli Burton is when we do it, when we tape the segment today. He's going to be here, and we're so lucky. I mean myself and my audience, because he is one of the first owners of the refreshed Model S. He's been driving the hell out of it. You've already seen the video. He set the world record for the stock, untouched, any Tesla, production Tesla, with a quarter-mile speed, quarter-mile race. I believe it was 10.6 seconds. I'm going to show you that video again, but he's going to be here and he's going to talk about what his experience has been in the last few days, and is the new Model S better than the Model 3? All of this is coming up next. Welcome to E4Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click on that subscribe button down there so you don't miss anything moving forward. And of course, I want to thank all of my Patreons for supporting this show. You can go to patreon.com/E4Electric to watch me live and support this independent channel. All right, so Eli is going to be here in just 1 second. And as you remember, boom, 10.610, that's his time. It's been a wild ride for him, to say the least, in the last few days. As you can see, here's the video of him creating. It was pretty cool that I didn't realize at that time when I was watching this that this is it. This is the fastest Tesla out there to date. And also, this video got coverage on a few publications. I think Tesla Radi, Inside EVs, and guess what? Boom! Even Elon Musk retweeted the article with that video that was embedded into Tesla Radi article. So we got good coverage, but this is big news. So, but there are other things that are happening with this refresh, and Eli is going to be here to talk about it. Of course, before that, quick reminder: this video and this channel is sponsored by Byton. Check out their all-new all-electric SUV called M-Byte, coming at the end of next year here in the United States and Europe, starting at only $45,000, and it takes about 60 seconds to reserve because there is no payment page. Takes $0 to join all of us, over 50,000 of us who have already reserved our Byton. So go to the description of this video to reserve your Byton today. All right, so this is one of my Teslas that I've owned throughout the last 7 years, and I was getting frustrated also in the last few months with the Model 3, but let's talk to Eli and see what his take on it is. Eli, how are you doing, my friend?
Alex, thank you for having me. It's glad to be back. At the moment, I'm a little bit under the weather because the last 4.5 days since I took delivery of my new Model S, Raven refresh is what they're calling it, P100D, I've been driving nonstop. In fact, I'm already almost at 600 miles. And when I took delivery of the car, it had 12 miles on it. And I got to say, beyond even just the ridiculous 0 to 60 I've gotten in 2.4 seconds and that 10.6 quarter mile, this car is a blast. And there is a lot going on with it.
Yeah, and I mean, as a matter of fact, you literally slept in it the other day. You love it so much. Is that right?
I slept in it both Friday night and Saturday night. I went on a road trip with a buddy down to Santa Cruz. Full vlog video about this trip's coming out soon. But yeah, he slept in his brother's shed, and I slept on my dream case in the back of the Model S. It was awesome. I'll tell you what, it was really cool to see, because I've now such a big battery, and not just big battery, but how much range I get on the battery. I slept in the car for 2 nights, had climate control running the entire time, and I still use such an insignificant amount of power compared to how much range the car gets now. It didn't even add a supercharging stop on my 2.5-hour drive back.
Yeah, well, so I was going to say, how do you like it? I think we all know the answer to that. I mean, if you're sleeping in the car. But all right, so, obviously, well, so let's just talk about what happened last week. And it was pretty much a week ago to pretty much within the next few hours is going to be weak. And tell us a little bit about how you set the record, because even though you decided to use it as stock, not deflate any tires, not remove anything from the car, like I know some people remove seats before that to set some records, just like the way you got it. But there was some prep going on, and tell us, I know you did a few launches. I remember just being there. Which one was the most successful one? And I know you're planning another one. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so basically, I took a couple extra steps to make sure that I had a best chance at breaking a record, and not just breaking the record, but also setting a really excellent time. And I did two things. I charged the car to 100% state of charge, and I also turned it into max power, which is where it heats up the battery. Then once I had it in max power and 100% state of charge, I then had a flatbed tow truck come and get me from the supercharger and tow me to the drag strip. So from the supercharger to actually taking my run on the drag strip, I drove the vehicle maybe 200 feet. So it had the highest state of charge possible when I took my run. Now, here's what's interesting. On the first run that I took, I'm not sure exactly what happened. I activated launch control. It felt a little bit weird. It almost felt like the tires were skidding a little bit. But on the first launch, I actually did like a 10.7. It was on the second launch, the second run on the quarter mile, where I was at a 99% state of charge, that I pulled the 10.61. So I'm hoping that on my next go at this, and I'm doing one thing different on the next run. So I'm actually going, in fact, in about an hour, I'm going to go get in my car, drive down to the supercharger, charge it to max power again, and get it towed back to the drag strip. Except for this time, I'm doing one thing different. I'm running it on the 21-inch wheels using the Arachnid rims. Had a number of conversations with the folks in the Tesla community on the Tesla Motors subreddit, and they have a lot of faith that with these Arachnid rims, that even though they're 21-inch wheels, which typically would compromise your quarter mile time, because the rims are so much lighter, everyone's expecting I should be able to break into a 10.5 quarter mile. I mean, 10.5 is amazing. This puts me in the range of really being able to be competitive and beat, McLaren 720s. These are $250,000 cars. I watched some McLarens running 10.6s at the Sonoma a week and a half ago. So if I can run 10.5s, I can beat some really amazing cars.
All right, and I'm looking forward to that. So, all right, now, but this car, and by the way, let's just, we do want to talk about, in this video about more than just taking off really fast and beating records, because most of the people who buy these cars, they're not buying them to race. They don't even buy them to take off that fast. I've admitted many times that I cannot be in a car when it launches this fast. I mean, just my old bones can't take it. I get nauseous and I get headaches after that. So I can't. But there are quite a few other improvements there. And before we talk about it, tell me, are you part of sort of the group that was, the Model S owners, Model X owners that felt that maybe Tesla started to abandon them and started putting all the technology in software and hardware into the Model 3, where kind of we felt like, hey, well, wait a second. First of all, we paid twice as much money for our cars, but also we were kind of the reason why Tesla even is here, because if it wasn't for us buying the $100,000 S and X's for the last, 5, 6, 7 years, there would be no Model 3. And now they're getting rewarded by just like most of them are just brand new owners, so they're just kind of jumping on the bandwagon. And we who have been around and suffered through quite a few things, right, with the brand, are being left behind. Did you feel that way, and why?
For the last 9 months, I was feeling, and it was true that the Model 3 was getting priority on everything, right? The Model 3 was getting Autopilot updates first. They were getting performance improvements. They were getting, a new V3 supercharging. They were getting all these things that were just for the Model 3. And, it's one thing that it's a bummer that our existing Model S's and X's didn't qualify, but you know what? There's new tech. I get that. But there was no answer in the Model S or X. So if you were to buy a new Model S or X, you just missed out on the boat of this new tech. And actually, for the past 6 months, it got to the extent that anybody I was talking to about buying a new Tesla, I said, today, do not buy a Model S or X. If you're going to buy a new Tesla anytime before this Raven refresh, the intelligent way to go is the Model 3. So my advice to people who really wanted the S or X was to wait. And I think we saw that very much reflected in last quarter sales for Tesla Model S and X, that car really wasn't selling because people were waiting for it to catch up with the Model 3. Now they did this, and I feel like they've righted things in the universe again. They have definitely returned the Model S and X to dominance by both increasing the range, so getting a 345 range on my Performance S, 370-mile range on the long range S. Now the Model S is the farthest range vehicle in the fleet. Also, the Model X gets up to 325 miles of range, which puts it right up there, right equal with the long range Model 3. So it also gets the extended range. We get supercharging up to 150 kilowatts, but on V2 or V3, we're going to supercharge at 200 kilowatts. Now, yes, the Model 3 will be able to go up to 250. However, I don't see that extra difference between 200 and 250 really being a compelling reason to buy the 3 over the S or X, even though it will charge slightly faster. The new top-end performance they've added as well. The Model S is now faster than it's ever been, going from that 115 to 130 speed. And that's something most people aren't going to use. But if you're somebody who's going to use this for performance driving, drag strip racing, racetrack driving, that's a huge bump. And the final thing that's missing now, I'd say, between the Model S and the Model 3, that the Model 3 performance still has a leg up, is track mode. But there's a lot of rumors and a lot of word I've heard on the street that as part of this new car and part of the new battery cells that they have, potentially some other different changes in how the car is going to manage temperature, that a track mode is coming for the S and X. And I think once that comes out, you've now got everything you could possibly want on that car. But if you're choosing the Model 3, it'll be because you chose the Model 3 and you wanted the Model 3, not because you had to get the best tech.
Well, I'm curious why do you say that charging at 200 I believe it was 200 kilowatts versus 250 kilowatts is not going to be as big of a deal?
Here's why. It's one of those things of the laws of diminishing returns. Is at a certain point the value of an increase in that thing doesn't become as great. So going from 120 kilowatts to 200 kilowatts, that is what, a 40% increase in charge speed? Going from 200 kilowatts to 250 is only another 25% increase. So the gap between the two and what the increase is going to be is much smaller. Also, one thing we don't know yet is how long these cars are going to be able to top out at 250 and 200.
Exactly.
So I think once we get to the middle range of charging, that it won't make that much a difference. And also, too, here's the other thing. What the Model S has going for it is bigger battery packs can charge faster for longer. And the Model S has a 100 kilowatt pack. The Model 3's got a pack that's in like the 70-ish range. So I'm expecting that the Model S is going to be able to sustain 200 kilowatts for much longer than the Model 3 will be able to sustain 250, simply because the physics of charging batteries.
No, fair enough. And I agree. And I think the increase from 120 to 200 is actually almost like 60%, because I think it's significant. And you're right. I mean, see, that's the thing. Like, I think we've been talking on this channel, and I've been talking and covering all the stories about, which car, which supercharging network or fast charging network has what top kilowatt rate going for them. But it's essentially, and we talked about it, when we talked about it last week about the Audi's kind of a misleading chart that they got called out by Clean Technica, is that it's all about how many
It's actually
freaking
a 66%
miles
increase. So I spoke wrong.
Yeah. I'm like, the question for real people is how many miles of actual driving you going to get per each minute that you're charging, right? So that's overall. We don't care about setting these records or the peaks and stuff like that. So let's see what it's going to be. But you're saying now that Model 3 is kind of back on top as a once again flagship car, and Model S. What did I say? Model 3. Model S. Yes, I meant Model S. Model S is now a flagship car, and it is back on top.
And that's the way it should be, by the way. Like,
right.
If you're gonna buy the $100,000 car, it should deliver you substantially more value than the $60,000 car. I think cost of value, though, what you can get on the Model 3 for the money, you get more per dollar for sure. But what you're going to pay to go from Model 3 to Model S, you get a big enough performance, experience, range improvement, I think, to make that a good value proposition to the customer. And then what Tesla did to thank us early adopters by giving us free ludicrous mode if we upgrade to performance, that was special. I mean, that was a $20,000 discount on the car. So, I mean, you add all the two together. If you're an existing owner, now is absolutely the time to upgrade if you can swing it. Even if you don't necessarily want a performance car, you basically pay the difference of going from standard to performance or long range to performance, which is not a huge chunk, and you've got $20,000 added to your resale value. Even if you never activate ludicrous mode, take it. Take it. You're going to sell the car someday, and you're going to be glad it's there.
Well, that brings me to the next sort of question that I had for you. So there are reports today that the new refresh of the Model S and Model X are coming, and it looks like looks they're talking about like maybe even September or sometime this fall, and it looks like the refresh might be on the interior. It's almost like eminent, like it's the interiors for sure, might be exterior as well, but the interior ones leaked through. And I say leaked through electric. Sounds like everything gets leaked through electric. But so here's one of the pictures here, which essentially they're making it look like a Model 3. And then here's another one, which is a little different. This is the going to display that's going to go behind the wheel. So it's going to be much smaller one that they had before, which is not really that shown very well in this picture. It's kind of almost like they're contradicting each other. But nevertheless, what do you think about that? Like, what? Let's say if you had a choice right now between what you got, which is kind of the whatever we had for the last 7 years, give or take, or this new Model 3 interior, which one do you like the best? Just judging by these pictures from Electrek.
So I'd heard from numerous sources that this was coming. I'd seen these pictures, and it's actually part of the reason why I bought my car right now. I don't want this refreshed interior. There's a lot of people on the internet, and a lot of people who like this super minimalist design. I love it in the Model 3. I think this design is right on the Model 3. For the Model S and Model X, I like the screens they are right now. I like that the screens are aimed at the driver and not centered between the driver and the passenger, because as much as I do use this vehicle for a ton of autopilot, I still like the driver experience when I'm taking over and really putting the metal down to the road. So for me, this was literally the perfect time to buy. And if you're somebody who wants to upgrade, you want the existing interior, these cars, I mean, based on this expectation of this announcement leak, I mean, I feel like leaks and announcements are one and the same thing with Tesla. It just gives them the ability
exactly,
to
yeah.
it's firm on the timeline. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of brilliant, actually.
Well, it is. I mean, I just did a video.
Not in September, and if we come out in October, hey, we didn't say that.
Right. Oh, I just did a video how Elon actually figured out how to bypass the SEC by no longer making public statements, sending out internal memos or emails, which he can say anything he wants when he communicates with employees, and then it accidentally leaks out through, let's just say, Electrek, right?
Yeah, and you know what? This is a game that like a lot of companies play, by the way.
Yeah.
Like Apple is like the king of like anytime a new phone's coming out, they like leak a copy of the phone to a journalist. Like, come on, a journalist didn't accidentally get the iPhone 12.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Anyway, no. So I think it's for sure coming. I think it's going to be interesting too. Is I think we're going to see a bit of a window where the cars with the most recent hardware but don't have the new interior are actually going to have a little bit of their own value proposition in the market, because some of these I think it's going to help some of these used cars retain value. So any of these cars made between now and September, whenever they make the switch, I think it's going to be a bit of a unicorn car long term, because they're going to only have cars that are made for 3 months, have this Raven hardware, and still have the old interior. So I think long term, people who own these cars will be very happy they own them. I think they're going to be very hard to find on the resale market.
I think you're right on the money. I think what you got, my friend, is the best Tesla that's ever made, not just up to date, but I think within even the next 2 years. And I'll tell you my view on this. Now, if we look at that picture, the reason first of all, I'm when I'm buying a car that's over $60,000, I expect luxury, right? And Tesla already has build quality issues, material quality issues, and so forth. So when they're simplifying the interior, I feel like they're taking it even away from the luxury. That's why I think a lot of other brands like Audi, Mercedes, and so forth, they may not compete with an amazing battery technology or self-driving technology, but they will appeal to all of us who want a luxury interior. So I feel like Tesla is making a step back here, unfortunately. But let's look
up. The game that they're playing is, I think they're going at the angle, they're making the trade-off of luxury versus cost reduction. And I hope it works out for them, but you're absolutely right. The Model 3 interior does not have the same luxury as Model S. I do got to say, and I got to get you over here while I still have the Geek Ship and the Starship. Take a look at these cars side by side. And it's incredible because I got the same color, I got different interior, but it's amazing in the difference of the build quality from 2 years ago to now. Like you look on my 2017 Model S, there's all sorts of panel misalignment and chrome misalignment, and there's some gaps and all this stuff. And then you look at this one, and it's much cleaner. It's much more tight. even the seals and like the frunk and the trunk and the doors is better. So it's interesting to see how much the build quality has improved from July 2017 to May 2019. It's significant.
which
I need
is
to make a video about it before I get rid of this car because there's all these little things and they've done a lot better.
Which is a shame, right? Because 2017, that's 5 years into making the damn thing, and the fact that they still weren't able to do it very well, it's concerning. Not so much for specifically for that model year. It's just every time Tesla comes up with something new, I feel like they still don't know how to do stuff, and they just kind of put stuff out there and start to improve. But it's us who are paying, and you guys paying the full price.
And that's something important. And that's something important about them being tech company mindset, right? You're always shipping the minimum viable product. And part of that meant in the past that there was issues with panel alignment and panel gaps, and that was taken as a secondary priority to the technology. I would say now with the new one, I've got both high tech and the car looks like a well put together car. The interior is much tighter. Like I got to get you over to check it out before I return them.
Yeah, yeah. And let me make one more statement.
My buddy, one of the first things he said was he was impressed by the difference in build quality between the two cars.
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed mine also when I got 2015 over my first 2012. And, it is so. The only thing is, I have to say, I understand the whole software kind of a putting out there and then making it better, but I completely refuse to kind of go with a program here on the hardware. And a lot of people, and maybe even I think you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but quite a few people suggest, well, Alex, this is like cell phones, right? Like you buy a cell phone and all of a sudden it's like outdated or whatever. But here's the thing: when I get a cell phone, like I have a Pixel XL3, for example, right? The camera, the memory, pretty much all of the components are going to be produced until they go with a Pixel 3A or whatever they call Pixel 4, right? I can count on them producing this. They're not going to tomorrow start selling it with faster chip or better camera, right? The only thing that will improve is the software, but not the hardware. And I think that's what the analogy is kind of a drift away. And I would
and that
still...
is where they break down. That is where they break down because Apple still only does a new phone every year that involves new hardware.
Right.
And that's something that like Tesla's even more ahead of that curve, that hardware can sometimes change weekly to monthly. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I got one other thing that's very interesting, and I'm sure the Model 3 is going to get this, but any of the existing Model 3s don't, is I have noticed a massive improvement on Autopilot with the new AP3 chip and the current firmware I'm running on. I don't seem to have any more feature specific things. However, its ability to handle difficult turns has gotten better. But the biggest thing I've noticed is it's not yelling at me constantly to keep my hands on the wheel. Now, granted, I have my hands on the wheel. I always have my hands on the wheel. But on the previous AP 2.0 hardware I had on my 75D and the most current firmware, I would have my hands on the wheel and it's still yelling at me every 60 seconds because I'm not putting enough directional movement. Now on this version, I've got my hands on the wheel, just being comfortable, and it may blink at me every 15 minutes. So it's accepting a lesser level of input. I think that's a reflection of the increase in performance, the increase of processing that's happening in Autopilot using the 3.0 hardware. I did a 200-mile road trip to Santa Cruz, and I was shocked by how little Autopilot nagged me.
That's really awesome because, so as you know, the reason I'm not a big fan of Autopilot is because to me it is only useful if I can actually do something else while the car is driving me. And it's actually gotten worse. When I got my 2015 Model S, that wasn't the case. You could do whatever the hell you want technically because it was driving you. And then they put that restriction and then tighten it up more and more and more. So it's good to know. By the way, it doesn't seem like it's regulation, like government regulation. It's a self-imposed limit that Tesla put on their own technology. And I ended up being kind of felt that I got cheated. And until that goes away, I would really just see no use for the Autopilot. So it's good to see that that's kind of being phased away, I guess, which is amazing news. I would say this is the best improvement out of everything that I know about this new Model S and Model X refresh.
And for my daily experience driving the car, especially since I'm driving to the Bay and other places quite a bit, that improvement alone has actually a bigger impact on my driver experience than anything else.
And so let me go back really quick to we were talking about the refresh, and I'm just talking. So this screen is definitely going to be bigger, right? And therefore, look how much further to the right a driver would have to reach, right? Just imagine this being vertical like it is right now, but look how much further the driver will have to reach to, for example, hitting whatever features are there. So I definitely object to that. And as far as the kind of almost disappearing display behind the wheel, unless there's a heads-up display, which I doubt. To me, that's a big deal. Like, to me, that's just must have. And I, unfortunately, like, that would be literally a deal breaker. This is one of the reasons I don't want to buy in a Model 3s, because there's no heads-up display. There's no display in front of me. I feel kind of naked there, and I need it. Like, I want to see my speed.
I love seeing the speed, and I love seeing the little navigation window in the corner showing me the fine close-up look at where my turns are. I love that.
Yeah, and also which music is being played. There are quite a few things that I want pretty close. I already have to lower my eyes down, right? And then with the Model 3, now I have to also look to the right, and essentially where, like all BMWs now have the heads up. Kona Electric has it where you can have that, and it's just projects, like you're driving and you just have to lower your eyes like by almost nothing to see your speed or your next turn, and it's kind of a must have if you ask me. So
do you think a heads up display would change that? Because I feel like if the good heads up display, you could really do it in a way that would be ideal if it's done right, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where we're going with this whole thing. And then you don't need the display in front of you, right? You really kind of don't need it. With what I like about Byton, because it kind of combines all the monitors you have in a heads-up display, because you kind of have this whole sort of, everything that you need on one plane, and it's just low enough for you to see the road, but high enough to be able to access almost everything you need and have so much real estate where even the passenger has his or her own space. So unless there's a heads-up display, which is pretty damn good, I'm just not up for this new design. So I think you got the best deal. Not only money-wise, which you did, but also features ever produced for Tesla-wise, and probably even moving forward 2 or 3 years. So
totally, and that's why I bought this car. So I'm keeping this car long term. At some point they're going to add heads-up display. Some point they're going to add this smart glass they recently patented. The next update may include over 400 miles. At some point they're going to get over 500 miles. But I'll tell you what, 345 miles of range. The only time I'm going to have to supercharge ever again is when I drive from here to LA, and I'll have to stop for a maximum of 15 minutes. So I'll be excited when Tesla ranges get even more crazy the way they're headed, but it wouldn't have any difference in impact in my life.
Yeah, so I guess the new refresh they're saying will also get the battery to about 400 miles, but at some point it's a moot point, right?
It's moot for me at 345. How often do you drive 300? Anybody drive 345 miles in a day unless they work in transportation?
Can I tell you a secret?
Sure.
You know what works for me? Because I'm basically all I have right now is a Volt, and it's got realistically somewhere about 40 to 45 miles of electric range. I returned my Tesla, 2 weeks ago? So I've been driving my Volt 2 weeks ago. So I kind of went through my entire weekly routine, and I've yet to use gas, and I have 45 miles. So basically what happens is in the morning, like after this, I'll go get my lunch and Starbucks. I usually go hiking and stuff like that. And then I come home right before I actually then, like tonight I have a soccer game, or sometimes I go on a date or go to a concert or whatever. And then the car fully recharges itself for my second part of the day. So essentially I get about 90 miles of that. So it's going, like, there's no gas usage at all until I go to the Bay Area on a long trip, which I was taking my Volt anyway. So I remember I was talking to somebody. I think there was some industry expert that said that this range is gonna, like, there will be a race to like 500 or 600 miles, but after that everyone's realized that 200 miles is just good enough.
And 200 miles may be good enough, but 300 plus. You're now even removing the people who are the people who get even more concerned about range. You know what I mean? Like with 300 plus, when they say, well, what about when I want to take that one family trip they do a year? 300 plus solves that. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The race to 500 is not going to be real. I mean, the next gen Roadster may be the only car for years after it to do that kind of range. The only exceptions I might see, and this is a big one, I see the pickup trucks having this kind of range simply because when they're weighted down, we know that range is going to go drastically lower when people are carrying heavy weight. right?
True.
So like if you want to have like a F-250 that tows 10 tons, it may be able to do 500 miles on no weight, but under 10 tons, it does 200. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think we're going to see some of that for commercial, like heavy duty work type use. But for everyday
Including
cars,
semi trucks, right? I mean, semi trucks need to have that range as well. But yeah. All right, listen, I am so excited about this. I know you're going to keep playing with this car. I know you're going tonight. I probably won't be able to make it. I have a soccer game, so that comes first. But I'm excited to see what are you going to do with this next, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video. And I'm sure people will have questions in the comments of this video. So I'm excited for you, man. But thanks for once again hanging out with me. I will see you next Wednesday, unless we make another video about what happens tonight.
sounds great, Alex.
All right, man. Have a great rest of the day. Kick some ass.
We'll do.
All right, guys. So that's that. I mean, see. This is the stuff that I really like. A lot of people think I'm a Tesla hater and stuff like that, but I'm loving this. Like, when I saw his car, I was like, holy crap! I'm looking at the best freaking car ever made, like right now, and I'm one of the first ones to even lay my eyes on it. So I'm just so freaking excited about that. You know what else I'm really excited about? Is one of my new Patreons. Ed, thank you so much for contributing. As you guys know, this is an independent channel. This is my full-time gig, and I rely on your support. So thank you so much. And in return, you get to watch me live. All of these videos are streaming live on Patreon. If you want to join me there, patreon.com/4electric. And I do have something that's free, which is our VIP list. Stories that we send to your inbox, and these are the stories that we just don't have a chance to cover on YouTube, but nevertheless they're just as exciting. And we're now also running deal of the month for those of you guys who have Tesla's Model 3. This is Evan X's one of the best selling items. They got a sale going on it right now, $50 off, but the subscription to my newsletter gets you another $50 off, so you can get $100 off of this item right now. So just subscribe to our newsletter for free at e4electric.com/VIP. All right, guys, I love these hangouts with Eli, and these are getting more and more exciting. So once again, we're both looking forward to your comments in the comment section. Other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.